Hello, welcome back to another episode of Why Are Comic Books So Addictive? They are, and because they are so addictive, sometimes they can create more hassle than they are worth. With the recent natural disaster that I had to deal with, Hurricane Irma, it was an ordeal to have to deal with the collection. That probably brought more anxiety and worries than many other things. This house that we lived in was remodeled, rebuilt 6 years ago, almost 7 years now, and we replaced the roof with the best roof we can buy. We replaced all the windows. It's hurricane proof. It's category 4 proof. Okay, not category 5, maybe not. It's hard to tell. Not to say that this roof can stay intact with 175 miles an hour wind, but at least the builder assured us that the window, the roof, category 4, not a problem. That being said, we are not even a mile away from the water. Okay, so that was a concern. And when the storm was coming, the thought of evacuating really did not cross my mind at the initial stage until the storm veered more left. And at first, for those that follow the storm, at first the cone of uncertainty, as they call it, was the entire state of Florida. And at times it was shifting more east to Miami to be the landfall, and then more to the middle of Florida as a landfall, and then eventually it was to the left. That's when it brought me concern, because for those that understand hurricane, you don't want the eye of the storm to be on the left side of you, because that's where the surge will come. Okay, at least on the west coast of Florida, because normally the most hurricane come from the east side of Florida, and then we get the wind from the north or northeast, and not from the southwest. If the wind comes from the southwest, for sure we get the brunt of the surge. So when the forecast showed that it is heading toward Naples, that was the first time bring me a lot of concerns. And that was when I made those videos about plan to put things away. And the next big question I had was what to do with the collection. Okay, I was confident with the roof. I was confident with the window, the wind, but the flood, what the heck to do with that? And then on top of that, most likely we will lose power. We lose power all the time, even on regular rainstorms. So if we have 80 miles, 150 miles an hour wind, losing power is a certainty. So in my mind, it was a lot of debating on what to do, because what if we lose power for a week, 2 weeks? Certainly, I wouldn't want to live here. I would go to find a place, drive somewhere, and get to a hotel, get AC, because there's no way to live in this house for 2 or 3 weeks when it's 90 plus degrees. Okay, no way. So if that's the case, sure, we have home security and all that stuff, but without electricity, home security, poof. So I wouldn't want to keep everything here if we lose power for extended period of time. And then flood is a small worry, because Florida is a fairly flat city, but believe it or not, this house is at one of the highest point in Sarasota. My house is over 26 feet above sea level. The highest point in Sarasota is just under 31 feet from what I can tell. So in fact, the place that we evacuate to was only 27 feet. So it's basically the same. So as far as how high we were above sea level, I was no better off there than here. The evacuated place was not even 2 miles away from me, so so it's not a big deal. But we made the decision to go there because we didn't want to be stranded. If we were stranded here with any kind of flood, small chance of that, but for sure, if we stranded here with no electricity and nobody to contact, it would be hard to deal with. So I'd rather be with a group of people, feel safer in numbers. And that was a decision. As far as the collection, ultimately what I decided to do was to rent a storage space. So 2 days before we evacuated, it was a scramble for me to find a storage space. And believe it or not, a lot of the storage space was in low-lying area. Luckily I downloaded an app that's pinpoint the location and elevation. So I went to 3 different locations, and they were all lower than where I was. So I'm just like, what is the point of moving the collection if this location is not even 10 feet above sea level? So that was kind of annoying, but ultimately I found a storage space that had 3 stories. So it was a mad scramble. I took 3 trips. Okay, it took me 3 trips to load up my car and drove to the storage space and go to the 3rd floor and put things. I rented a very small storage space. My storage space was 5 feet by 5 feet. It was a big closet, but surprisingly, 3,000 books and 100 plus slabs was able to fit in there nicely. So, but it was a lot of hassle, and in the end, it was not a big deal because we didn't get hit with a storm. We did lose powers for 11 days. The storage space that I rented, it cost me $75 for the whole rental for the whole month, and it was temperature control. It's nicely new built, so it was not a big deal. It's 5-minute drive from my house, so to retrieve the books and put it back into the shelf and cabinet was not a big deal. That's all done. I was able to do all of that the day that we got electricity. As soon as we got electricity, that was my task for the next few hours. But if anything, this whole event taught me was that it was a right decision for the past few years to slim down the collection. I don't want to deal with the hassle. Not to say that, would I wish that Florida is not in a location that have this kind of threats on a yearly basis? Sure, but you can say that for the entire southeast state, from Texas all the way to the Carolinas. We are all in danger of a hurricane every year. And this is the first time that I had to leave my house in 13 years of living here in Florida. So it's not a big deal ultimately, but it teach me to be prepared on how to deal with a similar situation. So next time, God bless, we don't have to deal with this for another 10 plus years. But if it happened again, I know we are in a good location. I know the house is high up, and I know exactly where to bring my collection to put away should I need to bring it somewhere because there's a good storage space, not even 5 minutes from my house, and they have 3 stories, so the collection can be high and dry. So lesson learned. And yes, because the books are so addictive, sometimes we go through extraordinary steps to protect them. But for me, once we evacuated into the building, into the shelter, the last thing on my mind was the books. Okay, they are important, but once I was in the shelter, it's all about the safety of the family and all the people there. At the end, the books are not as important as our life. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.